Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Healing with Cami. This is the first episode of so many on this podcast in this space. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Cami. I am a intuitive medium. I am an oracle. I am a light worker, a Reiki practitioner. I am a bunch of things, but most importantly, I am a mother. Okay, and I am someone who takes inner work and inner healing very, very serious. If not for the sake of self, for the sake of the future generations and the bloodline and lineages to come. The intention with this space that I want to set with this space and with this is for it to feel like a community, for you to feel like you belong somewhere, a sense of belonging, a sense of feeling like, you matter, you are not alone, okay? Um, and just to know that you are able to relate when it comes to the traumas that you experience, and different things of that nature. Okay, I have the intentions to not only share my stories and what I've been through trauma wise and just in life in general, but to also bring on others who can share their stories. Sometimes I might share stories of other people that I know, right, and that I can relate to. But there will be a lot of talk of overcoming trauma, mental illnesses, okay, just a lot of different things. So there'll be a lot of laughs, a lot of cries, okay? It's all a part of the healing process. And I am here with you, and I am grateful that you are here with me. And hopefully, this can be a safe space for others, no judgment, okay, for other people to share their light, share their stories, or to just realize that they are not alone because you are and you matter. So, with that being said, as you can see by the title of the video, it is called Reclaiming Your Power by Using Your Weapon. Okay, I am someone that is very, very intentional. I try to be intentional in everything with everything I do. Um, and I chose for this to be the first episode for many reasons. One of them being as someone who is still working on herself. Okay, as someone who is still working on herself and still finding my voice, I have been called and pushed to do a few different things that require me to use my weapon, my voice. This being one of them. I've been called to do this podcast over a year now, and I found every reason to resist, but here we are. Doesn't matter how long it's taken me to get here we are, right? Here we are together, okay? Because you are here with me, and I appreciate that, and I express gratitude for you sharing your time and your energy with me. So, moving forward. um, Reclaiming your power by using your weapon. Your weapon being your voice, whether that's you telling your story, speaking your truth, okay, sharing what you have gone through, your testimony, story, it's all the same. Showing up authentically for yourself, speaking up for yourself, speaking up for others, right? Just using your voice. That can come in a multitude of different ways, right? Whether you are a singer, you are a writer, you do poetry, you make, podcasts, you tell your story and you share your story to strangers, to others, whoever, behind closed doors, whatever. Every time you speak your truth about something that you have gone through or that you are going through, you are reclaiming your power. And for some, it might not seem like that's that big of a deal, but to others who have been conditioned to silence themselves, it is a challenge. It's a challenge for me. This is a challenge. This is a challenge, but we are here, right? We are here. As someone who is still working on herself, right? I find myself still resisting in a lot of ways when it comes to using my power, reclaiming my power, right? Um, As children, right, it starts as young as children. As children, our power is being stripped away on the daily. We are being conditioned to be silent on the daily as children. And it looks, it can look it can look a few different ways, right? It can be different for other people, for other kids, and it can turn into something different as they get older. But when you really think about it, as children, oftentimes we have to ask for permission to speak. A lot of the time, we are not granted that permission to speak, right? I know in my community, not too sure about other communities. I'm sure, I mean, I can only speak for my community. I know in my community, when it comes to our parents, our elders, okay, if you talk back, you are being disrespectful. It's plain and simple. If you express yourself, you are being either disrespectful or emotional. In some way, some shape, or form, it is viewed in a negative manner. Now, that is just in a general sense, right? When you go to school, you have to raise your hand to ask for permission to speak. Everyone around you is telling you you have to listen to me because I am the adult. You cannot tell me what you want or how you feel because I am the adult and I know what's best for you, right? Half the time, let's be real, adults don't know what the hell is best for themselves, let alone for another person, whether that's a child or not. Now, I said we do a lot of inner healing and inner work here, right? And I am big on breaking generational cycles. I don't like to use the word curses. I am big on breaking generational cycles. So I'm gonna tie in. I gotta tie it in. Gotta tie it together. So when you have already been conditioned and programmed to respect your elders, to not speak up for yourself, to not dare say this makes me feel uncomfortable because it can be deemed talking back, etc., right? When you grow up in a home or in an environment that is not safe, that is toxic, that is, for multiple reasons, whether there is any type of abuse going on, whether that is physical, mental, sexual, emotional, even though it all ties in together, one and the same, nonetheless, you really can't have one without the other. It becomes a whole different thing, right? In my community, we are told what goes on in this house stays in this house. That statement still to this day makes me cringe. it's so it's so dangerous of a statement because for obvious reasons, right? Then you also have, or I was also told, I also heard, I should say, many times growing up from within my home and just other family members and stuff. And I can probably guess a lot of other people can say they've heard this from their mother. Mothers especially single mothers. Don't you dare tell nobody my business. Don't you dare tell nobody what's going on, what I got going on. It ain't nobody's business, etc. Right? That can be dangerous. Why? Because if it is something going on in that home that should not be going on in that home, if your mother is going through something, you are being conditioned to not tell that business. You can't even ask for help for your mother, let alone your own sake, right? So as you get older and you have been silenced and programmed and conditioned to withhold your voice, to not speak up because it will be deemed disrespectful, rude, you going against the grain, or whatever the case, you're being problematic, you're being overly emotional, right? All of these things, as you grow up, you just learning to bottle it in, bottle it in. Everything you're going through, even if you are not experiencing some form of abuse, but you are still being silenced, right? You then become that adult that cannot speak up for themselves, or that has a hard time expressing themselves because you don't want to be, you know, looked at as being a problem or being disrespectful or your intentions being misread the wrong way, right? Now, you can also grow up in a home where you were allowed to express yourself. You were allowed to speak, you know, your mind and speak openly about how this might make you feel or that might make you feel, etc., right? You grow up, you become an adult, and then you find yourself in a problematic relationship. And then it is then that you realize that your power is now being taken from you. Or, you know, you find yourself in a position of being embarrassed, so you don't want to speak out for help. You don't want to tell anybody that you are going through this, this, and this, or that you've gone through this, this, and this. So you then become that adult who cannot speak up for themselves because your power has been taken from you. The moment that you start to speak up and speak your truth in any capacity, in any capacity, you are reclaiming your power. It might not feel like it. Sometimes it makes things worse. But you are still showing those who feel like they are above you, no, I still got some of my power. You get what I'm saying? I'm still fighting the fight. I'm still showing up for myself. And sometimes that's hard. We're human, right? There's fear, there's embarrassment, there's a whole multitude of things that will stop one person from wanting to express their truth, express themselves, right? As someone who has gone through a multitude of things, starting as a child, all the way up to my adult life, as many can relate. Even I found myself, even as a child, asking for help, right? And there are situations where you have the individual attempt to seek help or call out for help, and that help is ignored. I mean, the call is ignored. Or it makes things worse. And then you find yourself wondering, why do I bother? Let me just go through the things that I'm going through. Because when I tried to speak out for help, when I try to let someone know I am in need, I am going through something, I am not safe, it makes things worse. So you pick the lesser evil. Well, I'd rather just go through this and deal with this pain because I'm familiar with this pain. I know how to take this pain. I know how to deal with this pain. I'm just going to shut up. I'm just going to give my power away. And you feel powerless. You feel powerless. You feel so small. Sorry. You feel so small, right? And when I look back over my life, over my childhood, all the way up into my adulthood, and I look at all of the different scenarios where I called out for help and it was ignored, or I called out for help and it made things worse, now that I can reflect on things, I can reflect on those things, I realize that I am a force to be reckoned with. When I was feeling powerless, when I was feeling small and helpless, baby, there were still times where I was trying, even if it fell on deaf ears, even if it did not get me the help that I needed, it still shook the foundation of the ones that were trying to control, the ones who were trying to show their power over me. It still showed them I got a little fight in me. And it took for me now to realize it then that I've been fighting and showing up for myself even when it didn't feel like it. So, for those of you who have gone through something and it was ignored or it did make things worse and you blamed yourself, baby, I am here to hug you and tell you that it wasn't your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. And applaud yourself for standing up for yourself. Even when no one else was looking or paying attention or gave a damn to try to help. Okay? Because you got a lot of people that will talk about you. They will run your name through the dirt, but not once have they tried to help. It is amazing to me now as I am an adult and grown and I have my own kids, you get what I'm saying? And I'm doing the work and I am trying my best and I am very intentional to make sure that my children do not go through a lot of the cycles that I've went through myself. I understand everything, you know, is gonna work out a certain way. They have to go through their own lessons and whatnot. But if I can eliminate or prevent some type of trauma, I'm gonna try my best. My kids are very, I'm not gonna say outspoken. My kids, I allow for them to express themselves. I allow for them to be vocal and to speak their mind. And when I see that they are nervous about speaking their mind, I'll tell them, well, no, go ahead. Am I getting on your nerves? Go ahead and let me know. Am I making you mad right now because I'm asking you to do this and this and this? You know what I mean? I want them to know that regardless of if they think it's going to upset me or not, I want them to be able to tell me. If they think it's something bad, baby, still come and tell me. You get what I mean? And I am very intentional about that, but it has its downside sometimes because as children, they are still trying to learn how to go about saying certain things. Hell, adults are still figuring that out, right? I'm still trying to figure it out. Um, so with that being said, I have my youngest ones, especially, are very strong-willed, and they are so powerful. They're they're so powerful. And sometimes it is a challenge because they be they be speaking their mind, and I'll look at their dad, and I'll be like, my goodness. He be like, it's your fault. You allow for them. And I said, you know what? I did, and I do. And I said, and as much as it grinds my gears now, sometimes I said it will all be worth it when they become older and they're able to stand up and speak for themselves and speak for others, and they won't be afraid to use their voice in any capacity. It doesn't have to be tied to drama or anything like that, or trauma. It doesn't have to be tied to any type of trauma, but just the fact that they will be comfortable with using their voice. They just got to I just have to be patient and wait through this until they understand and they can learn the difference between how to be more respectful with what you say. You know, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And that's something that I still battle with to this day. And hey, you know. So that's that. That's that. Now where was I going with this? Because I don't have any notes. This is really I'm just letting it come as it comes. So when you get older, okay, so as I got older, and even in my adult life, I found myself in situations of going through things, you know, And I've never been afraid to share my story with someone. I've never been afraid to tell somebody what I've gone through. Even if I'm being questioned, judged, or whatever, I've never hesitated necessarily to speak my truth. But I always struggled, and I realized this recently. I've always struggled with speaking up for myself, with using my voice when it comes to myself. Why? I could not tell you. I can stand up for somebody else in a heartbeat. I can speak life into somebody else in a heartbeat. But when it comes to myself, there's still a little power. There's still a little unlearning that I have to do, that I have to deal with. And I'm working through that. And here we are, you know. And when I said that I'm very intentional and I chose for this to be the first episode, that is because this is me showing up for myself in another capacity, in a capacity that I am not comfortable with, but I am here because I am reclaiming my power, period. In another level, on another level, in another way, in another form. I am reclaiming my power. And if it helps someone else reclaim theirs, or if it helps someone else find the light within themselves, that's a bonus. And I am grateful for that. You know what I mean? One thing that I've come to realize is when it comes to those who try to take your power away from you, when it comes to those who try to victimize you, every time you speak up, right, you are shaking the foundation underneath them. You are making them have to do more work to discredit you. And I smile when I say that because that's your power. That is where your power is. When you have the ability to make someone go out their way to try to discredit you, you've already won. Whether someone believes you or not, I mean, whether somebody believes you or not, or whether somebody believes them or not, the fact that they have to put in extra work to discredit anything that you have to say, baby, you already won. And it might not feel like it, but I'm telling you, you have already won. And I've come to realize that not too long ago, um, within my own home situation, there was a lot going on with me in the home growing up, trauma wise. Every possible form of trauma that you can imagine, I've gone through. And again, I tried to call out for help young. It didn't happen. It made things worse. There were some people in my life who did try to ask questions, who did try to see what was going on, and that is when it made things worse. If y'all hear my baby, I told you I was a mother. So this is what you get. This is what you get. If you hear my children in the background in any of my episodes, baby, I am showing up as me. Okay. So you probably hear that's my baby. Um, but back to what I was saying. There were some people in my life that I ran to for help growing up when it came to certain things. And they did ask questions, they did try to look into it. It did make things worse, but I am grateful for them for even doing that much. Because a lot of the times when it comes to toxic environments and situations, you don't know what you're stepping into, and you are ultimately putting yourself at risk trying to save someone else in a sense, right? So with that being said, those individuals, those adults who, and even my friends at the time growing up, even my friends will go and express to their parents like something isn't right, and I am So grateful for that and for them. And when they, you don't know what you're getting yourself into. So for the ones who did say, "Hey, what's the deal? What's going on?" She's saying this, she's saying that. Like, this how y'all moving? This what it is. Even though they were convinced to think otherwise, right? They were convinced to think otherwise. It showed the ones who were holding power over me and in control over me that, hey, yeah, I you thought you had. I'm scared of you. I'm scared of you. I give you that. You beat my ass. I give you that. But I tried. I tried. Now you gotta look over your shoulder. Now you gotta cover your tracks a little bit better, because now this person looking at you upside your head, like, hold on. And although it might seem as though they are convinced of the things that you have said to discredit me, it's still in the back of their mind. And it's still in the back of your mind that somebody else knows or has an inkling about what the hell is going on in this home. There's power in that, even if it didn't seem like it. I am able to see that now, right? And for that reason, as I got older, I am still hearing. It is mind blowing to me. I am still hearing to this day some of the stories and some of the lies that were told on my name, even as a child, because people were making sure they discredited me every which way they could. To the point where when I came out and was vocal about it openly to all the family members, you had some people say, "I don't believe her because when she was younger, it was said that she lied about this, this, and this, or that she was doing this, this, and this." And I'm like, whoa, damn. So when I look back on it now, as hurtful as it was to hear those things, when I look back on it now, I'm like, damn, y'all was doing that much work to try to discredit me, little old me. Okay. And when it comes to speaking your truth, when it comes to telling your story, you have to know, and this is something I've come to realize and I've come to accept. You have to do it for nobody else but yourself. Meaning, for those that believe you, great. For those who don't, so the hell what? It is your story. It is your truth. And you will have people try to tell you, well, maybe it was this, maybe you looking at it wrong, maybe they didn't know this, maybe they didn't know that, they was just doing the best they could, this, that, and the other. Every excuse and gaslighting in the book you will experience, you will hear, you will face. Guess what? You know what the fuck you went through. You know your truth. You know what you have to deal with. And we're speaking in a general sense, whether you are a child, whether you're an adult. Whether you're an adult now that is trying to do the inner work, you have to connect with your inner child. You have to go back and reflect on those things that you went through in order to move that energy along, in order to heal that wound, in order to face those demons. And that right there, baby, I was told. I was told after already expressing my truth and making it known what I was going through in home. This is just what I was going through in the home. I was told I had to face, I needed to face my demons. Damn. I thought that's what I've been doing all this damn time. I for damn sure wasn't dealing with the angel. I was covered by him. Baby, let me say I am covered. When I look and think back on all of the stuff I've been through, even though I was going through it, I was still going through it. I got through it. No matter how dark it felt, no matter how dark it seemed, I got through it. I didn't come out woundless, but it's the scars that remind us of how strong we are. It's the scars that remind us of our story. It's the scars that remind us that they tried. They tried. They didn't succeed. Why? Because we still here. And even if you are not telling your truth and speaking your truth and using your voice now, you can always start. And it don't have to be public. It don't have to be well known. It can be as simply as you looking in the mirror and admitting what you went through. And owning that and knowing that this is what I went through and can't nobody tell me anything different. Period. Right? So fast forward to some things that I was going through, outside of the childhood trauma, right? Even as a young adult, I was a mess. For someone who battles with abandonment issues, codependency issues, speaking up for themselves, right? Experiencing all forms of abuse. As I got older, I was in the streets, trying to find my way, going through it. And as dark of the times that I had while I was going through it and trying to find my way, I still felt more safe in the streets than I did in my own home. It was imperative to me that I got out of the home before I reached of age. Make with that what you will. That'll be a conversation for another day. That'll be a conversation for another podcast. But yeah. So I went through some things. For someone whose father was not in the picture, and then the father that I had was the one in control, I was looking for love in all the wrong places. I was, I was, I was going through it, and as a result of that, and trying to find my way, I ended up having my child, my first child, and I still say to this day, my son say, all of my children have saved me at a certain point in my life or in their life. When they came into my life, they saved me from something else of myself. They saved me from myself in a different aspect. They've helped me with a different level of healing within myself, each and every one of them. But for my first child, my son, he definitely saved me. Um, and I vowed when I learned that I was with child, I made a promise to myself that my children, they won't go through the shit that I went through. But moving forward, at this time, I had two children, and I went through a very traumatic experience, and it blew my mind because I thought all of this time, everything that I had gone through was dark and hard, right? But when I experienced being raped, this wasn't the first time, but for some odd reason, it was the way the situation happened that um, sent me to a really dark place. And for someone who has spoken out for help in the past and whatnot, I know what comes with speaking your truth. I know what comes with saying that you've gone through this and being questioned, being judged, right? Oftentimes, the victim is the one that's blamed. The victim is questioned more than the one that did the wrong, right? So, when I was going through this experience, I found myself trying to go through it alone because that's what I was used to. I was used to going through everything alone, facing everything alone, afraid to ask for help, afraid to burden anyone, afraid to put somebody in my mess, right? Um, and I remember sitting at the hospital by myself. And at this point in time, I was living with my son's grandmother. I love her. I was living with her and her mother. So it was a lot of support there. My son blessed me with a family that I didn't think existed because of the type of family and dynamic that I grew up in. So that is healing within itself. But nevertheless, this is a family that shows up no matter what. These are women who they will drop whatever, whenever. They pulling up, they showing up, whether it's to act the fool or whether it's to comfort and make sure we are, the other person is okay. This is the type of family that I was blessed and brought into. And it still stands to this day. But I didn't want to burden them when I went through what I went through. And I remember telling my kid's aunt, we were really, really close. And I knew something was off. I knew something was wrong. I'll get into that. That'll be another story for another time, another episode. But just briefly, for the sake of this episode, I was going through, I told her, something ain't right. I ran it past her because I just knew I wasn't tripping. Because when it happened, I was unconscious and I came to just quickly enough to realize what was going on. Yeah. I told her, and I said, can you watch my babies? I'm going to go to the hospital. And I remember my kid's great-grandmother was downstairs. This was in the morning, it was early. Was downstairs. And their grandmother was in the living room sleeping on the couch. And I remember quietly walking past her because I did not dare want to disturb or burden anybody with what I was going through. And I went to the hospital and I'm in pain and I'm going through all these things and I'm processing, like, did this really happen? I'm trying to bring myself to the realization that this really happened. You know what I mean? I talked to the nurse and I said, I'm not sure. I'm questioning myself. I'm like, and I'm only questioning myself because I know that that's what's going to come from this. I'm going to get questioned. Why? Because I've been questioned all my life when it came to me going through something and seeking help. I've always been convinced or made to believe that what I was thinking or experiencing wasn't what the hell I was thinking or experiencing or what I felt, right? The nurse said, no. Regardless of anything that you're thinking, yes, that is the case. And I had to sit with that. And I remember sitting in that hospital, waiting room by myself, as she told me that she would be contacting law enforcement. Like all this shit running through my head. Because I know what comes with that. I know that a lot of the time, law enforcement aren't quick to believe the victim. I would have been questioned, well, what did you wear? What was this? Why did you put yourself in this situation? This, that, and other, even though who willingly puts themselves in that type of situation, right? Especially in my case, it wasn't that at all. It was a setup. Unknowingly. Nevertheless, like I said, different episode. But I remember sitting there being so afraid that I was going to have to go through the salon that I was fighting tears again as another being conditioned to hold things in that you go through, right? So I remember sitting there trying to keep my composure. I can't do this alone. And when I say I text their grandmother, no, I think I text the auntie and said, can you let her know that I am here, what I'm going through? When I say, man, not even 10 minutes later, the force was there. The force was there. The grandmother and the aunties showed up. The only reason the great-grandmother didn't show up is because she was at home with my babies. And they looked at me and they said, baby, what you want to do? I call her Marjorie. Because she is the mother in my life. She said, baby, what you want to do? We are here for whatever decision you want to make. And she said that because I knew I had already come to terms of what happened. And in my eyes, that was the worst. I got through the worst. And I did not want to go through the process of having to relive what was going on or whatever. Like, I just wanted to accept what happened. And that was that. And I said, I don't want to move forward. I don't want to move forward with the law. I said, because it's going to be other people's word against mine. I said, I already know how this plays out because of what I've gone through growing up. I said, I want to accept what happened and I want to move forward. They embraced it. But the thing about it is, while they were sitting there with me, supporting me, they were letting me know that they understood exactly what I was going through and what I was feeling and what I was experiencing because they had gone through it themselves and they could not tell anybody. They did not tell anybody. And one of the ones who did tell somebody or did seek help was criminalized. It was criminalized. And that in itself is a scary thought because so many people are silenced. So many people are conditioned to not speak up for whatever reasons. And we can't judge them for those reasons. Just like I would hope that y'all wouldn't judge me for the fact that I chose to not move forward with the law, but I just chose to move forward with my healing. You get what I mean? You don't know what the reason is why somebody chooses to take the route they take when it comes to the shit that they are going through and the healing that they are going through. But this is why it is important for you to use your weapon, right? You use your weapon. As I got older, not as I got older, but as I gone through that process, I was blessed with being able to connect with other women who have gone through similar experiences, right? And at this time, I had a very close friend of mine tell me, hey, maybe you should check out this group. They're doing the vagina monologues. My mother is in it, and it has really helped her. Maybe you should do it. I'm like, okay. I'm like, okay. While I was dealing with my kid's father at the time, blaming me, he didn't believe me. He thought that I asked for it. It wasn't right. The responses from him was not right, and the responses from him sent me in a darker cycle, a darker decline, if anything. But nevertheless, actually, let me rewind. As I was going through these and trying to process what was going on, I was going back and forth with my kid's father, and he was not supportive. He was not there for me in any sense. He was blaming me and all of these things. I got to such a dark place that I was ready to take my life. This wouldn't have been the first time that I contemplated taking my life because as a child, I've attempted numerous times to take my life. And nobody knew. I never was able to tell anybody, I'm ready to die. I've never been able to tell anybody, I just attempted to kill myself and I'm mad that I'm still here looking at you. So, this is when I say my children saved me. Because while I was going through this dark time, and I was contemplating, it was them who I had to look to and say, no, baby, you got something to live for, right? You got something to live for. And I did it quietly. I didn't attempt. I got help quietly. I had my grandmother, my biological grandmother, was down here from Texas. She was living in Texas at the time. She was down here. She was staying with us at the house because it was my kid's birthday. They had I just had a birthday and the whole night. Anyway, she was there, so I had my grandmother, I had my kid's great grandmother, and I had my kid's grandmother, my mama, shit, Madre. Okay, downstairs in the house with my kids, and I was sitting outside. I'm sitting outside, just going at it with my kid's father. He don't know I'm on the edge, and I just said, you know what? Let me go get some help. Let me try again. Let me try to seek help again, right? And I believe I texted Madre and said, I'll be back. Can you watch the kids? I'm going through something. Something along those lines. I don't remember. And I remember on my way to the facility, the psych ward, um, texting my kid's aunt, another sister of mine, letting her know I'm finna go check myself in. I didn't want to tell Madre I was gonna go check myself in, but I waited until I left. I waited until I was damn near there, and I said I'm finna go check myself in, sis. I'm letting you know because she is someone else who has experienced a lot of trauma and whatnot, and she's also someone who was familiar with the facility as well. And she was like, okay, like, you good? I was like, no, but I'm here. And I remember pulling up, I remember checking myself in. I remember, I told her, I said, you can tell my kid's dad. I said, you can tell him. They ain't gonna fix nothing. You know, you can tell him he don't believe. Maybe now he will believe how serious this was of a situation. And I got the help that I needed. I was able to get the help that I needed to process what I had went through and everything. It wasn't easy. I still had moments where I was ready to attempt in the whole nine, but after that, um, but I remember in the midst of that, I reached out to my biological mother. I was telling her she was willing to show up for me. When I told her when I was at the hospital and I told her, I texted her and I told her what was going on, she was ready to send the dogs out. She wanted names, she wanted all of these things. The only problem that I had with that is the one that she was using to come to my rescue was the one that had already caused so much trauma in my life. Someone that I tried my best to kind of get away from, but I couldn't get away from completely because they were still close. You know what I mean? And I couldn't understand how she was willing to show up for me then, but she wasn't willing to show up for me when I was calling out for help as a child. But she attempted to show up, and I give her credit for that. But I remember telling her that I was in this dark place. I was trying to tell her where I was mentally, and she tried to talk me out of getting help. Why? Why is that? Because she grew up being conditioned with the mindset of what goes on in this house stays in this house. We don't seek therapy. You can't go to therapy. Why? Because you're going to be telling your business. You're going to be telling everybody else's business. So, moving forward to the vagina monologues, I ended up connecting with this group of women, different ethnicities, different ages, just different. But we all shared a similar experience. And it was in that moment, nonetheless, the Vagina Monologues is a story of a play put on, and it's taking a bunch of different women's stories from different cultures and experiences. And it showed me just how common, unfortunately, this type of thing is. But it gave me power. I felt so powerful to be able to tell somebody else's story, to be able to share my story with other people who support and whatnot, right? I felt so proud to be called an advocate. When they told me you're an advocate, I was like, I'm an advocate? Because I never had nobody advocate for me. So I felt such an honor to be able to say, damn, I'm an advocate. I'm advocating for people who went through similar things or even worse things than what I've gone through. But I'm an advocate. I am able to speak for those who can't speak for themselves, right? Now remember, I said that I'm very intentional and I'm still working on myself and that I chose this episode to be the first and I'm still going through some things when it comes to using my voice, right? I realized that I have no issue advocating and standing up for somebody else, but I still struggle with advocating and standing up for myself. We gonna work through that though. We working through that. I say all of this to say that as I continue to move through life and I continue to do the healing work and I continue to share my story and I continue to face my demons and I continue to show myself grace because it's not easy. Still to this day, I have memories and stuff pop up randomly that I have to process because it shows up in our everyday life. The trauma that we go through shows up in our everyday life. But I want other people to know it is okay to speak your truth. It is okay to state what you are going through regardless of who the fuck believes you. Because I promise you, a lot of the time when you are sharing your story, even if it's not as heavy as this, the stuff I've been through, my trauma, whatever, you gonna come across somebody that might not seem like they believe you, but deep down, they can relate. They just too afraid to say something. So when you speak your truth, when you share your experiences, when you let other people know you are not alone, it gives them hope. And even if they can't find their voice, the fact that you are using your voice is giving them a voice. So when I say, baby, it's time to reclaim your power, use your weapon however you see fit. If you gotta write a letter, write that letter. State your truth. You ain't gotta share it. You can burn it. I've done that. I wrote a whole memoir when I was younger. Whole memoir. Burned it. Released that energy. Was told to face my demons. I said, cool, bet. Wrote a letter, sent it out. Got so much backlash from that, it was ridiculous. Heard so many different stories about the dirt that was thrown on my name just growing up when I was out here thinking I was minding my business and raising my kids. Hey, it's cool. But at the end of the day, the ones that thought they had control over me, the ones that thought they had power over me, can't look me in my face today. Why? Because I claimed my power. I called my power back to me. And I'm going to speak my truth no matter what or who doesn't or does believe me. Because it's for me. It ain't for nobody else. It's for me. And I told my family that. And I say, you know what? I'm not in the position to try to make you believe me. You going to believe what you want to believe. You going to believe who you want to believe. I said, but I know what it is and what it was. And so do they. I said, and at the end of the day, I can walk around here with my head held high. I'm not looking over my shoulders. I'm not, none of that. I spoke my truth. And one thing you can't do is take the power away from somebody that reclaimed it themselves. You can't do it. Once you reclaim your power, baby, you make them tremble. I don't care how big and bad they try to act. Once you reclaim your power and they realize they can no longer control you and that they are powerless, you won, no matter who believes you or not. So I say all that to say, whatever your truth is, share it in whatever capacity you feel called to. And when someone else is speaking their truth or sharing their story, don't be so quick to judge. Don't be so quick to question, well, why you didn't do this way? Why you didn't do it that way? Just be proud of the fact that they are speaking up now. And just have grace in the fact that they chose the route that they chose. Ain't nobody perfect. Healing ain't perfect. Healing ain't easy. Healing ain't linear. It's all over the place. It's a goddamn mess. But we here. We doing it. You are not alone. You matter. When you feel like giving up, just know that there is somebody watching you that you don't even know is watching you, and you are motivating them to keep on going, whether that is friends, family, your children, yourself. Your inner child is looking at you like, damn, she showed up for us, or he showed up for us. Damn, they showed up for us. They showed up for us. When you show up for yourself now, you show up for all of the parts of yourself that was attempted to be stripped away. Baby, and that's power. You're powerful. Nobody can take your story away from you. They can try to alter it. They can try to discredit it. But they cannot take what's yours away from you. Even if they attempted to. In a physical sense, the mental sense, whatever. It's yours. And that's where your power lies. Like they say, power's in the tongue, right? We can tear you up. It can lift you up, cut you down. Whether that is others or yourself. So be patient with yourself. Show compassion to yourself. Show grace to yourself. And just be proud of where you are and count all the small victories. I'm counting this as a victory. I did it. I did it. And I set the intention that it helps somebody else. But I am proud of myself in this moment for even doing this. Because I just showed up for myself. And I'm proud of you if you do and when you do. You are not alone. Feel free to share your experience in the comments if you need to, if you want to. All of my details as far as contact information will be in the description box. If you would like any services, I do intuitive readings. I do Reiki healing. I am a listening ear. I am support. And my light just went off, so I think it's about time to wrap it up. But I am support. If you would like to reach out, okay? If you are still here, again, thank you for getting this far. If you have not already, please subscribe to the channel. There will be so much more to come, and I am looking forward to sharing that with you if you're open to it. I send love, I send light, I send healing. Blessings and hugs y'all way.